And we're back with more Talks news. Continuing the COVID-19 relief bill package talk. This is part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1, go check it out. If you're on the podcast, you have nothing to worry about. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. It gets spicy, because after Trump gave a 4-minute speech about how he can still be president and Americans deserve $2,000, this just came out. Oh yeah, buddy.
A government shutdown, signing the massive $2.3 trillion spending bill, which includes $900 billion in coronavirus relief.
The emergency funds in the relief deal include $600 payments for every adult and child, an extra $300 a week in unemployment benefits for 11 weeks, $284 billion in funding for Paycheck Protection Program, and extending the eviction moratorium.
On Capitol Hill today, Congress will vote on the president's demand for $2,000 checks to every American.
Those checks, the major sticking point between Republicans and Democrats.
It's terribly untargeted, right? Why would we be sending $2,000 to people with a 6-figure income who've had no suspension, no reduction of their income at all?
Given the terrible.
That isn't every American. It's just, I gotta pause it right there. That's not every American, though. And some of them might have had a pause, and that's I don't like when people make claims without evidence or proof or any statistics whatsoever, and just say things, and just say it, just get it out there in the zeitgeist and let everybody else mull it over.
Economic crisis facing this country. Yes, we do need to get $2,000 out to every working class individual in this country.
So did President Trump's strategy help or hurt? Democratic strategist Robert Patillo and political analyst Ron Meyer join me now to discuss. Robert, what do you think? Did the president help this situation or hurt it?
He hurt the situation. Let's understand that President Trump had the ability to come out over the summer or even in the spring and say that he was going to demand $2,000 direct payments to individuals. Why would you wait until the entire bill has already been negotiated and passed in order to throw a monkey wrench into the middle of it? These checks could have been going out this week, according to Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, but it's been delayed because of the president's breaking down and stopping these negotiations and trying to do this in a separate bill. We know that we're going to have Republican recalcitrance. So, of course, he hurt this process.
Ron, what do you think? Is Robert right, or is this all Nancy Pelosi's fault from, again, back in the summer for demanding a gazillion dollars, not the official number, but it sure felt like it.
Oh, my God. Jesus Christ. I like how he's bipartisan up until a point. Like, unbiased until it's time to represent,
Her relief deal.
Well, that's it. I mean, we can play the blame game all day, but Trump supported $2,000 plus payments for as long as I can remember, certainly going back to June. And yes, the Democrats.
There's no proof of that whatsoever. There was like a White House aide had said that Trump wanted $1,200 checks to go out again. But again, like, if Trump doesn't come out and say it, that's just like something that almost comes out in a leak form. Like, it's so unofficial that it's almost meaningless. It's more meaningless than when he actually came up and said $2,000.
Democrats did pass something, but it was filled with every sort of rider and spending package that was their dream, including bailing out states that haven't been smart with their money. And so, I think we can go.
And how are you going to are you going to prove which states were irresponsible with their money in order to, not give them the bailout? And are you going to look at states that actually have responsibly spent their money but are suffering still in this pandemic, which has slowed the economy around the globe? Like, are you going to pick and choose based on that, or should just nobody get it because you don't think anybody deserves it?
Go back and forth and blame and say, well, it could have been done earlier. We all know this. The Democrats were never going to pass a bill before the election.
They did. They passed the HEROES Act. They did. They did pass a bill
that the president would actually be able to sign. And so they put.
Okay. That the president would actually be able to sign. Oh, okay. So the bill that they had originally written called the HEROES Act, that was just. That's just them doing something. That's more of that spectacle posturing too. That wasn't a serious thing. They didn't think that Trump would sign that ever, as if like him signing it before election wouldn't make him look uber good.
They filled it with stuff that would make it totally unsignable because they wanted to make sure that nothing passed before Joe Biden was able to secure victory. And so that's been their
Yep, that's so facts. That's just so facts that I can't even disagree with it. I can't even say that Mitch McConnell refused to hold a vote for the HEROES Act on the House floor or the Senate floor before the elections because he knew them voting it down probably would have made him look bad. I can't say that though because I just can't.
Strategy from day one. And so I think the president, supported these big checks for a long time. He still supports them. He'd support a standalone rider that increases it to $2,000. I think at this point, no one's really caring about federal spending, and the president certainly understands that. And I think
nobody's really caring about federal spending. And yet that is all the gripes when it comes to any of this issue.
He feels like direct payments are, giving people their money back. And so that's really the least we can do when we're sending money across the world to various foreign countries.
Right. All right, let's switch gears to topic 2 now. The president firming up his Georgia rally planned for the day before those critical runoffs there in the Peach State. What do you think, Robert? Do you think the stimulus signing is going to sway voters in any way, shape, or form? Or are the results in this one already baked in?
The answer is yes. It is going to sway because it directly affects their lives. But I like the pivot here because Fox News never can hold a discussion about one subject for long enough. Like, they could have actually gone over how important certain spending was, but rather than enlightening Americans on their tax money spending, let's just pivot. Fuck it.
Well, the issue is that you've had Kelly Loeffler spending $500 million on commercials, criticizing Raphael Warnock for wanting to make direct payments to individuals. And now, a week before the election, President Trump coming out in favor of the exact policy that Raphael Warnock has been in favor of for the entirety of the campaign. Kelly Loeffler consistently throughout this pandemic is worried about enriching herself the same way that her husband, Jeffrey Spetzer, did in 2008 until 2009 with credit default swaps that caused the Great Recession. So these people have consistently demonstrated they feel that direct payments to the American people are unnecessary, but to help millionaires and billionaires is what they really care about. I don't think President Trump is going to change that with a sudden trip to Georgia next week.
Ron,
Yes, I like Robert Patillo a lot. Oh, wow. And, that's me showing my bias, but I agree with almost everything that he said.
Your response.
Listen, I think that both of the current incumbent senators voted for the relief. I think they've supported additional relief from time to time. And what it comes down to really is momentum and people wanting a true.
Mitch McConnell's bill in response to the HEROES Act was a $500 billion bill that did not include direct payments to Americans.
Check on government. When the president-elect gets sworn in January 20th, people are going to want to know there's a check and balance. And if the Democrats hold both the House and the Senate and the presidency, I don't think that's what the American people want. I think they want divided government. They want to make.
They still have the Supreme Court, and then they'll still have like a less than majority in both the House and the Senate who can challenge every piece of legislation that comes across their desk. So checks and balances not existing just because a political party has all two pieces of the legislation in one executive. They still have their fail-safe emergency safe word button of the Supreme Court. So, obviously just really masking what checks and balances actually means, in the name of getting Republican shit done.
Make sure that DC is forced to compromise and that one party doesn't run roughshod over another. And if you look at these Georgia Senate races, I think that's what it comes down to. And especially when you have candidates on the Democratic side that really aren't in line with sort of moderate compromising values. They're really, very hardcore progressive Democrats. And
yeah, Warnock is hella progressive. He's really progressive, and he lets it be known.
And so do we really want the Senate to be taken over in that way when we could have one party control? I don't think so. And I think they're
scared. I mean, he just sounds scared to have representation actually represent working class folks rather than, faceless conglomerate corporations. Ron Meyer's scared of that.
You're going to see President Trump go down there to try to get some momentum for the Republicans to close this thing off. And I think that Republicans do have the slight momentum here, but it's going to be close.
And you have to wonder if the president really just held his nose and swallowed his medicine here, because even though he hates the pork in this bill, he doesn't want to do anything which distances the two Republican senators there and potentially makes them lose. Yeah, it's all about.
That's what he did it for? That's what he did it for, is so that they wouldn't have to debate the issue anymore and look poorly in front of their voters, even though obviously they don't represent their best interests. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I was hoping that they were going to get more into the actual specifics of the bill, but of course that Georgia pivot was perfect for them to avoid that discussion. So to close out today's episode, we're going to get into this PragerU video called What is Big Green? I watched about a minute and 20 seconds and I was like, oh yeah, give me some more. But the thing is here too, is that the reason why I wanted to cover it is because the Green New Deal has been a topic in this country about spending more money on renewable resources and shifting our economy away from fossil fuel, which would be a massive shift for the economy, which entails government spending as well. So I feel like in essence, this really all has to deal with the same thing, which is where's our taxes going? And I'm sure the overall objective of What is Big Green is to make the green revolution actually look like a major industry in the same way that fossil fuel is. So let's, PragerU is a fake university that does about 5-minute videos on YouTube in order to indoctrinate or even, convince people to hold down their positions of reactionary republicanism really hard. And that's the effort there. Hold on. What up?
I got a fat tip from Mercy's mom. You want some Sonic?
Sure.
On me.
Sure.
You want to look at it?
No.
Come on.
Chili cheese coney.
A foot long?
Yep. Chili cheese tots.
Chili cheese tots?
Medium. No, I'll be okay.
About a shake?
No, I had that. I'm okay. I'm gonna get into this PragerU video that's gonna say that green energy is gonna destroy America. Yeah, it's basically funded from like Home Depot and a bunch of rich Republicans, and they'd make like 5-minute videos that basically just like oversimplify and lie in order to either convince people that such and such is a bad idea, or to get other conservatives to have like really vague talking points when they encounter someone who doesn't agree with them. But most of the time, you can know when they watch PragerU. You'll know. Yeah, and they're also very related to the Steven Crowder.
I was just about to say, brainless pro-choice claims right to murder.
Ooh, that was 4 hours ago, too. Change My Mind is back. Might have to do that on Wednesday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Britt. Talks News. Catch it on YouTube.
I don't know if you've seen the
Find it on your favorite streaming podcast platform.
I'm in every one of his videos, you know that?
Yeah. My roommate Britt is in every Crowder video. If you look hard enough, you will find her in the crowd somewhere.
No, I'm the table man.
Oh.
I'm always the table.
Oh, well, spoiler alert, she's actually the table.
Alright. I'll see you later.
Yep.
Goodbye, man.
That was my frequent guest, Britt. She'll be back next episode. All right, Prager, take it away.
You've heard a lot about big oil, big pharma, big tech, and all the other big bad players out there. I want to talk to you about the biggest, baddest one of them all. This Goliath doesn't deal in billions, it deals in trillions. I'm talking about Big Green. Yes, the environmental movement. It's the richest, most powerful big in the world right now. Nothing else.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's such an underdeveloped issue, especially when like people have said, oh, we can't move to solar and wind. It's so inefficient and expensive. No. Already no. And we're 23 seconds in. No, it's not.
Nothing else even comes close. Until we see it for what it is and rein it in, it's going to get even bigger.
Yeah, if we actually start getting more concerned with the ecology, then, we'll have another oppressor on our hands if we get too concerned with the environment. What a great video to release as the time bomb that is climate change is just encroaching on us.
And as is usually the case, bigger is not always better. You see, Big Green wants to take over your life. It has to. This makes perfect sense. Big Green, after all, intends to save the planet from oblivion. Your freedom would seem to be a small price to pay. To accomplish it...
I mean, yeah, obviously in the society that we live in today, we do have to make compromises that would make it more ecologically balanced. Like our practices in most major industries such as fossil fuel, agriculture, the military, a lot of things, our energy, all of it has upset the balance of nature, and for us to correct the course and possibly avert major disasters that will kill millions if not billions of people,
Its
we're going to have
mission,
to do
Big
something
Green
about it.
needs two things: money and power. It already has a lot of both.
Well, that's capitalism. That's capitalism, because honestly, if we lived in a more socialist society or communist or even anarchist, it would depend on mutual aid. Money is the everything in capitalism. Money is the capital in capitalism. Come on.
But it's hungry for much more. Who do we mean when we say Big Green? We mean the major organizations that set the agenda for the movement. This would include, among dozens, Greenpeace, 350.org, Nature Conservancy, Sierra Club, World Wildlife Fund.
Those are non-profit organizations. How are they big industry when they're non-profit? I'm sure they don't rake in nearly as much money as big oil. Like, if they did, there would actually be an efficient fight against big oil and its lobbyists.
And of course, the politicians, bureaucrats, corporations, and media outlets who support.
There's a cabal against you, trying to save the environment at the sake of your freedom.
Support and promote their agenda. Before we get any deeper into this, let's stipulate a few things. The climate is changing.
Shit.
It appears, though we can't be sure, to be slowly warming. If it continues to warm, it could cause serious environmental problems sometime in the distant future.
I like how the PragerU has the balls enough to admit that climate change is real, but it's not going to implicate the worst actors and influencers of that climate change, which is a lot of our industries.
Industrialization probably plays a role in this warming process.
There it is. Probably. Not 100% sure, but probably.
Reasonable people should be able to agree on this.
Nice.
Democrat leader Nancy Pelosi and Republican leader Newt Gingrich actually once sat down together and said as much in a public service ad they made in the 1990s. But Big Green has no interest in being reasonable. Reasonable doesn't get you money. Reasonable doesn't get you power. So let's talk about the money. Greenpeace, Nature Conservancy, World Wildlife Fund, and Sierra Club all have financial assets in the $100 to $300 million range. Name a Fortune 500 company, and chances are they're writing big checks to Big Green.
Yeah, but that pales in comparison to Amazon, which has to have the fossil fuel to transport all of its goods. That's a wow. Just a wow. It's a wow. Let me see. Fossil fuel industry revenue. In 2018, the total revenue of the United States oil and gas industry, what is that word? My smudge, came to about 181 billion US dollars. They're competing against 181 billion US dollars with 100 to 300 million dollars. Come on.
Banking giant Citigroup, for example, has committed $100 billion to combat climate change.
Good, but I'm sure it's like sparsed out over 10 years or something. I'm sure they didn't write like a one-time check. I'm sure it's sparsed out. Let's see. We might as well do the fact checking. Plus, also, it could be just like an investment for them, because it is the future of energy if we're going to continue living on this planet. Yeah, see? It says $100 billion environmental finance goal. City will lend, invest, and facilitate $100 billion over 10 years, beginning 2014 to 2023. Yep.
But the real money is at the government level. In 2009, the Obama administration directed more than $110 billion to be spent on renewable energy investments under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act alone.
And the thing is, though, is that none of that money goes to those organizations that he named. It goes to like actual businesses that generate, say, solar energy, wind energy, and other various alternative renewable resources. So, if we could get like the specific of those businesses, we might have a better argument. But still, renewable energy probably isn't on the level of $181 billion of revenue. This is investment to get, it going. So that's interesting.
What the taxpayer got for this investment, other than long-forgotten $500 million boondoggles like Solyndra, is hard to say.
I don't know what happened to Solyndra. Let's see. Wikipedia has it. I guess it was defunct in 2011. Oh, it's pretty big. Shutdown and investigation. So between 2009 and mid-2011, the price of polysilicon, the key ingredient for most competing technologies, dropped by about 89%. The precipitous drop in the cost of raw materials for Solyndra's competitors rendered SIG's technology incapable of competing, and other factors, including a contemptuous drop in the price of natural gas, together with the faltering of the corresponding financial models, also contributed to Solyndra's demise, despite quickly raising capital. On August 31st, 2011, Solyndra announced it was filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, protection, laying off 1,100 employees and shutting down all operations and manufacturing. But, I wonder, it's probably a different story for certain businesses now that solar energy, there's an article out, solar energy is actually the most, it's the cheapest form of energy there is now.
According to the best economic models, the Paris Climate Accord will cost the world $1 to $2 trillion every year.
We have to create a new energy infrastructure. You have to spend money on it. And the unfortunate thing is that so far they haven't found a way to profit off of renewable resources because they're so effective, because the sun is massive in its energy, and with our batteries we can reserve so much, so it's hard to make a profit off of something that isn't unsustainable, like oil, which, the lower amounts of oil we have, the higher those prices are going to go.
Total cost for the Green New Deal, $52 trillion.
Again, this is to reinvest in completely changing our energy consumption, our agricultural consumption as well, with the Green New Deal. And the Green New Deal had other things that added to that tax bill about also refocusing on like workforces and workers' rights and stuff like that. So it's more complicated than that.
But money is only a means to an end. The end is power. The power to transform society into what they think it should be.
Yeah, more ecologically balanced. Down. I'm down with it. But somehow that's coming off as if it's fascism.
That's what this is really about. Here's how Shoykat Chakrabarty, the architect of the Green New Deal, described it to the Washington Post. It wasn't originally a climate thing at all. We really think of it as a how do you change the entire economy thing. Maybe,
oh, dear God. Oh, no.
You like all this. That's fine. But don't pretend it's about protecting the environment.
I mean, unfortunately, we have to do both. We have to protect the environment. We have to change our economy. Energy consumption, food consumption. That all has to change, and those are major parts of our economy.
Chakrabarty was being honest. You should be too. It's about transferring more and more power to the government at every level. Federal.
No, but it's the government spending money on these infrastructures, which are probably going to be not small businesses, but businesses and upstarts that are going to take that money from the government in order to build our new energy infrastructure.
Federal, state, local. And the way to get the power is to gin up scary scenarios. The planet is burning. The seas are rising.
These aren't scary, gig up or whatever, gin up scary scenarios. These things are happening. The wildfires before winter came were insane. Sea level rise is happening, and we've had hurricanes exacerbated by the conditions of climate change.
All going to be dead soon unless we listen to those masters of disaster, Al Gore, Bill McKibben, and Greta Thunberg. And
I like how they always have to give examples of people that like right-wingers just don't like in order to like reinforce their argument.
what have all their horror stories led to? A generation of young people who have nightmares about a planet burning up around them.
Because they're the ones who are going to have to deal with the worsening conditions because we refuse to do anything about our CO2 emissions. Like, they should be concerned about it, and I'm glad that they're actually, like, protesting and bringing information out. Like, they're doing their fucking job. Whereas this guy is doing the opposite to get people to capitulate to suffering through climate change, when obviously the rich are going to have their bunkers to go hide into when conditions actually reach the worst that they could possibly get. How convenient. What a convenient lie.
Poor people who pay higher energy bills than they need to because of massive subsidies for wind and solar power.
But they could subsidize them so that poor people could afford them. And even now, it is becoming the cheapest source of energy. So it is becoming more affordable for people. And it's as if, oh, God. Whew. We just haven't really put the push forward to make sure that people can get these things rather than having coal, gas, and the other fossil fuels gouge poor people because they're seeing a reduction in their profits because of the green new energy that is coming out.
Millions of birds, including endangered ones, dying.
Yeah, guess what? And that's going to become part of natural selection, that birds are going to have to adapt and learn not to fly into those. And it's unfortunate, but even our CO2 emissions can attribute to the deaths of wildlife, especially with the wildfires that are exacerbated by climate change, killing vast amounts. And then we have Jair Bolsonaro, who in the Amazon rainforest, the most biodiverse place on the planet, was burnt to a crisp continually for our agricultural consumptions. Also, oil spills into the ocean, killing a ton of fish, and then sometimes even trapping birds in its tarry black death.
Sliced to pieces by wind turbines. Yet in the midst of all the planet is burning fear-mongering, the world is cleaner, healthier, and richer than it has ever been.
Okay. All right, I just want to say real quick, the richer thing is true because we've been coming out of feudalism, but the cleaner, access to clean water. An estimated 790 million people that's on the planet. With that's 11% of the world's population are without access to an improved water supply. An estimated 1.8 billion people, which is 25% of the world's population, are there without adequate access to adequate sanitation. Access to clean air. Oh, that one doesn't come up quite as clean. Uh-huh. But there are a couple articles that say here that there is a right to breathe clean air. India has oxygen bars where you can breathe in flavored oxygen because the air is so dirty there that they need to go to a bar and pay somebody for profit in order to breathe clean. Let's see here. Air pollution is one of the biggest global environmental and health challenges, and a global response is needed. At the heart of the problem is a lack of political will, a symptom of a legal and political order which puts private profit before public health. Part of the global response must therefore be legal frameworks which give effect to the right to breathe clean air. I was hoping to find specific statistics, but I can't, so we're just gonna have to move on. But there is clean air issues going on around the planet, especially the more industrialized your city is, the less likely you are to breathe clean air. Like metropolitan cities have incredibly polluted air because of the industrialization in the vehicles and such.
Deaths
and such.
from natural disasters are at all-time lows. Here's why. Human beings adapt when faced with climate problems. We're really good at it. We've been doing.
So, you don't have to worry about climate change killing your family members or killing people you love and know because you can adapt. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
it for thousands of years. Sea levels rising, build taller and better seawalls.
Yep, we'll just keep building walls as they just keep, as the water level keeps rising. We're just going to keep building walls. And the walls will forever grow taller and forever protect us. There's no point at whatsoever that water will be able to abridge this whole planet and put everything underwater. Walls will protect us from immigrants and climate change. Walls. All we need is walls. Walls.
That's what the Netherlands did. A good chunk of the country, including its international airport, is...
But obviously that is like a temporary solution. Like the only thing that is going to stop sea level water from rising and killing their population is to actually get CO2 emissions down so that the planet can continue cooling itself, and Antarctica and the Arctic can rebuild itself. The North and South Pole are melting, which is contributing to the rise of seawater.
Is below sea level. Need more water? Spread the gospel of drip irrigation and desalinization. Israel has more water.
You need more water? Water your plants. Yeah. Even though water is decreasing, the amount of water that we're even having on this planet is decreasing. That's so funny that he's just water your plants. The water depends. The water demands are expected to increase in a changing climate due to changes in temperature and precipitation. For example, in a warming climate, increased rates of evaporation and decreases in snowpack will decrease the supply of fresh water in some U.S. river systems and groundwater available to human use. So, watering your plants is actually going to give you less water if the climate continues to change.
Water than it needs, and it's in the middle of a desert. Need clean energy?
All right, how does Israel get its water? Israel's sources of water include underground water from the mountain and coastal plains aquifers, groundwater from Lake Kinneret, rivers, lakes, floodwaters, and now water reservoirs. Underground water is the largest reserve of water in the country. Unfortunately, that's even more easily exhaustible than water that's on the surface level. So they have it for now.
Build more nuclear power plants. Sweden gets half of its energy from nuclear.
Yeah, but there's a lot of issues, especially how you get rid of toxic waste, and I would have to do more research specifically on how Sweden is taking care of their people with nuclear power, but, I'm not really that for it, just because, anything that can go wrong with nuclear energy can devastate entire cities and populations and ecosystems.
None of these simple, practical solutions makes much of an impact on Big Green. You don't raise money off of common...
Because they're barely permanent solutions. Especially when we can have solar panels and wind energy, which is much more safe and effective than building a wall around the ocean, than nuclear power. And of course, generating water, we would literally just have to fix our climate and have that more at balance so that our seasons are more themselves are more balanced. Because the longer we have drier seasons, the less likely we are to have water.
Sense. And you don't get political...
He's really not thinking long term.
Power telling people how good things are. And you certainly don't become famous by being calm. Big Green is not poor, not honest, and certainly not powerless. It's time we all plug into that truth. I'm Rogan O'Hanley, aka DC Drano, for Prager University. Thank you.
Honestly, if you're more concerned about your hamburgers than you are about ecological balance, I have nothing further to discuss with you. That has been this episode of Tox News. Find me on Twitter, ToxinPod. At ToxinPod, ToxnPod. And find this episode on YouTube where you can see the sources and other yada, 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 yada. Other than that, go read some Murray Bookchin, because he is the anarchist to go to when it comes to ecological balance with society. He's a great read. He's a great lecturer. He was alive in the 90s, so he understands the issues that are going on today. And if that isn't enough for you, there's one by, how do you say his name? Abdullah Öcalan, who led the Democratic Confederalism in Rojava, who also tried to implement more green solutions. So go check that out, rather than just believing PragerU off of its baseless, sourceless, evidenceless, lazy propaganda. And yeah, that's it. that's all I got for you. If you wanted more, check back Wednesday and Friday. Oh yeah, and then I have a special episode on Thursday going over Yuval Noah Harari's Homo Sapiens book, trying to get in some more theory and some more readings rather than just right-wing talking points. But other than that, have a wonderful, wonderful life.